Be Smart is a program developed by Everytown for Gun Safety Support Fund to bring together parents and all adults concerned about kids, guns, and safety.
It's a heartbreaking fact that in the U.S., firearms are the leading cause of death for children. This is a public health crisis. Nearly 2,100 children under the age of 18 are killed with guns every year, an average of 6 children every day. When children are killed with guns, the majority of those deaths, nearly 60%, are homicides. That's nearly 1,200 children per year. Additionally, more than 700 children die by firearm suicide each year, and more than 100 are unintentionally shot and killed.
A shocking 4.6 million children in the U.S. live in a household with at least one loaded, unlocked gun. While school shootings and mass shootings typically make national headlines, almost all childhood unintentional shooting deaths occur in the home. The Secret Service found that 3/4 of school shooters acquired their firearm from the home of a parent or close relative.
What can we do to make this right? Gun owners and non-gun owners can all take action in their homes and their communities to keep our kids safe. Together, we can learn to be smart.
Let's start with S. Secure your guns in homes and vehicles. 13 million households with children contain at least one gun, and the majority of children in gun-owning households actually know where the gun is stored. So what do I mean by securing guns? Everytown research suggests that gun owners store their firearms in 3 steps. 1. Unload the gun, removing all ammunition, including any chambered rounds. 2. Lock the unloaded firearm with a locking device or in a locked location such as a gun safe. 3. Store the ammunition in a separate, secure location. Remember, hiding a gun is not securing a gun. We know that you may have specific questions about what secure storage looks like in practice, so here are some examples. We also have a handout that you can download on our website, besmartforkids.org. Contrary to popular belief, locking up guns does not prevent owners from readily accessing their guns. There is a common myth that storage devices negate the self-defense purpose of owning a gun by putting time-consuming barriers between the gun owner and their means of defense. The reality is that there are many affordable options for secure gun storage that provide owners with access to guns in a matter of seconds, while still preventing access by children and people at increased risk of harming themselves or others. Further, it is possible that unsecured guns may actually increase the likelihood of crime and violence through an increased risk of gun theft. In addition to reducing the risk of firearm suicide and unintentional firearm injury, secure storage also helps to prevent firearm theft. It's important to also remember to secure guns in cars. Columbia and North Charleston rank within the top 5 in the nation for stolen guns from vehicles, according to a study. Putting a gun under a seat or in a glove compartment is not secure storage. There are gun lock boxes available for purchase at most retail and sporting goods stores, as shown as the last example on the slide. Here are 3 additional secure firearm storage for your review: a gun case, a trigger lock, and a cable lock. They are all sold at varying price points. Although a gun case, especially a biometric gun safe, can be expensive, if the firearm is kept securely stored, then this avoids medical costs and possible legal costs due to injury and potentially the replacement of the firearm due to theft.
M. Model responsible behavior. Every law-abiding adult has the right to decide whether or not to have a gun in the home, but you can't rely on curious kids not to find a gun. It is always an adult's responsibility to prevent unauthorized access to guns, not a curious child's responsibility to avoid guns. Talk to your kids about gun safety, but remember, that's a precaution, not a guarantee. Parents and caregivers should teach children not to touch a gun if they come across one, real or pretend, and to alert an adult. Modeling responsible behavior means that smart adults make sure that kids don't have the opportunity to access guns. We have a handout detailing best practices for talking to children and teens about guns on our website. That's https://besmartforkids.org. As we have mentioned, there are approximately 4.6 million U.S. children living in a household with at least one loaded, unlocked gun. That's why you need to ask about firearms in other homes your child visits, the A in SMART. For the parents and caretakers on this training, think of some safety questions you ask about before allowing your child to go to someone else's home. Potential allergens or pets in the home, car seats for rides, who will be home for a play date or for teen events, TV and screen time, and alcohol access. Asking about guns in the home should be as natural as asking about any other safety issue. If it seems awkward at first, try making it part of your general safety conversation. You might try asking via email or text if you're uncomfortable at first.
Let's talk about recognizing the role of guns in suicide, the R. Access to a gun can mean the difference between life and death. Firearm suicide is uniquely lethal. 57% of gun deaths in the United States are by firearm suicide. We know that 90% of suicide attempts using a gun end in death, and that half of suicides in the U.S. are gun suicides, a much higher fatality rate than any other means of self-harm. We also know 42% of child suicides involve a gun. As our children get older, you may need to consider taking another look at your storage methods. If you've been using a simple cable lock, you may want to think about getting a gun safe. We all know how curious children can be, so as they get older and more resourceful, you will need to act accordingly. In addition, if you know your loved one is in distress, you may want to consider temporarily removing a gun from your home. Local law enforcement may be willing to temporarily store your guns, but call ahead. Some licensed gun dealers or gun ranges may be willing to temporarily store your guns. Or you could temporarily store your guns in the home of a friend or family member. Of course, to manage risk for that friend or family member, you should lock any guns that you transfer and not provide the key or code or ammunition. Depending on the law in your state, the person agreeing to store your guns may first need to get a background check at a gun dealer or through law enforcement.
An overwhelming body of research shows suicide is often preventable. One evidence-based strategy for suicide prevention is called lethal means safety, which is a strategy for placing time and distance between an individual contemplating suicide and a potential method of suicide. The secure storage of guns among gun owners dramatically reduces the risk of suicide for those with suicidal ideation. There are many tools that may be used to slow down the process and facilitate distance. Cable locks, trigger locks, and gun safes, just to name a few, are all tools that may interrupt the fast progression of thought to regrettable action. Some signs to look out for when concerned that a loved one may be suicidal are prolonged sadness and depression, changes in mood or behavior, hopelessness, sleeping too much or too little, withdrawing, isolation, aggression or agitation, increased alcohol or drug use, talking about killing themselves, or giving away their belongings.
The T is for tell. That's the power of being smart. So how will you commit to be smart today? Sharing the Be Smart message. The way we will save lives is by spreading awareness. So take just a few moments and ask yourself this question. Who are you going to tell to be smart? Maybe text a friend or a family member, or think of 3 organizations that you think should hear this message. And remember to text SMART to 64433 to learn more.